special edition of the show we call Reporter's Notebook. I like to bring you behind the scenes with some of the best reporters in the business discussing cases that have impacted them. We have with us award-winning senior national correspondent Tamron Moran, who's one of the first to start covering the Menendez Brothers trial. And now that trial is in the headlines, documentaries, movies, and a special that Terry is a part of, an eye-opening one. Terry, we were talking about the nature of the case and why it may be reopened. This long-lost letter that's resurfaced. Tell us about that.
You know, it's amazing. And so Eric Menendez was very close to his cousin, Andy Cano. And Andy died, sadly, of a drug overdose, but his mother never cleared out his room, his mother, the brother's aunt. And a reporter, Robert Rand, who has been on this story since the trial, decades, was speaking to Aunt Marta, who I know as well, and she said, you know, I couldn't bring myself to clear out his stuff. You're welcome to go through it. And he went through it, and he found this letter that Eric had written to his cousin Andy just before the murders, in which Eric says, I can't take it. My dad is doing it again. He's coming into my room again. I don't know what I'm going to do. Which corroborates, once again, it's proof that they were telling the truth about the abuse, and that unless Eric, was plotting weeks ahead, which there's no indication of, that it was continuing right up to the moment before the killings. It is major new evidence.
We talk a lot about social media, and we all know the challenges and the bad side of it. But TikTok, social media, a lot of folks online are part of how this got reignited. I just want to play a little bit of that.
Today I'm going to be covering the case of the Menendez brothers. This is probably one of the most famous cases ever, especially in the 90s. This was like reality TV when it was on trial.
Breaking Menendez Brothers news. It looks like we have a court date set for December 11th. This thing has consumed my life. I am a big true crime lover, but this has taken over my brain.
There's been some news recently. I'm really interested to see how that plays out.
All you tireless TikTok people, maybe you got what you've been campaigning for a long time.
Terry, how did kids going online, or people, I shouldn't say kids. I'm 54, so everyone's a kid, I feel like, these days. But how did social media change the dynamic here?
You know, Tamron, it's actually inspiring. What you just played there, it really is. Look, we all know there's a lot of bad things about, social media and everything. But a new generation has discovered this case. And they're looking at it with different eyes. Back in the day, no one wanted to believe the Menendez brothers. Many people didn't want to, because they didn't think it could happen to boys. And there's a very different openness to this kind of testimony, the testimony of people who have suffered through abuse and come forward with it. And that's what you're seeing. There's a cry for justice on social media, and it is inspiring.
24 members of the Menendez brothers' families are pleading with authorities that they be free. I have to tell you just now, when you said, and watching your work on this case, the fact that people couldn't bring themselves to believe that boys are the victims of sexual abuse is so heartbreaking. I know a lot of the clips, even down to late night shows, were joking about the boys because they were affluent, or their parents were, because they wore cardigans to the trial. But at its deepest core, it is incredible how society and thinking has changed. In that short period of time, that it was unimaginable for people to believe boys were sexually assaulted.
Even with that testimony,
yes,
right, that you played a little bit, which was, they weren't acting. I defy anyone to find an actor who could, I don't want to see anyone who could recreate that, and they couldn't. And so here we are looking at this case with new eyes and new hearts, thanks in part to the young people who I think are more open and more willing to stand up for victims of abuse. Now,
yeah, absolutely. Do you think they're going to get out?
Well, I do, I must say. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but look, they've been behind bars since they were arrested, which was 1989. That's 35 years. And they were sentenced to prison for life without parole because they were convicted of first-degree murder. And yet, as I've said, I think if the Menendez brothers were the Menendez sisters, they'd be free today. Not because they would be excused, they did kill their parents, but because I think that fact that you could feel in the courtroom, that has been corroborated in evidence, and that is now taken up by this new generation, that they were abused, I think that invites mercy. And I think the system sees that, and I think they won't die in prison.
Terry, I appreciate you so much. I've never heard it put so well. It invites mercy. We know they've admitted to the crime, and it is a horrific thing, but to invite mercy into the lives of these people who suffered unimaginable sexual abuse, that's why people are riveted by it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I know you're on the road with breaking news. Terry Moran, be sure to watch Impact by Nightline, Menendez Brothers, Monsters or Victims, streaming on Hulu now.